Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome. We are your hosts, Josefa Kapadia and Jasper Rivers.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. And today I'm not talking to an Airbnb host. I am talking to Sean D'Souza, and he's going to give us some advice on how to write a good description and title for our Airbnb listings. So, Sean, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being on the show.
Sean, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
I live in New Zealand, and as you know, New Zealand's a great place. I used to live in India. I moved here 15 years ago. I've been a cartoonist, writer, graphic designer, web designer. But essentially, I run a website called PsychoTactics, and it's about how people think and why do they make the decisions they do. So when you're looking at selling a product or a service, which I guess an Airbnb property would be, then people are judging that based on what they see, the words that they read, the pictures that they see. And so your pricing, it affects your pricing, it affects how booked you are, it affects all those things. So that's really what PsychoTactics is all about. It's about why people buy and why they don't.
So, in a nutshell, can you explain like why people buy?
Well, it's better to explain why people don't buy. And the reason why people don't buy is risk. So if you were to boil down everything down to one word, which is actually quite silly, but if you were to boil it down to a single word, you could call it risk. So when I have the risk of not knowing, not enough information, or I have the risk of this is probably too high, or a risk of I'm not sure whether I'm getting the right stuff, it all boils down to risk. Once we're comfortable and once we know exactly what we're getting and that we're getting not necessarily a fair price, but a price that meets with our value, we're okay.
You make an interesting point. You're saying people don't buy because of lack of information, and this is something that we talk about sometimes because I think it's really important for Airbnb hosts to provide as much information as possible on the listing site, because if people have question marks, or if there's not enough pictures, you can't see all the rooms, or you can't see all the beds, or you can't see the kitchen, or whatsoever. If people have questions, then they're reluctant to book.
Correct.
So that's the first lesson, I guess, we can learn, is to provide as much information as possible and make sure you take pictures of all the different areas from different angles, so that people really have a good idea of what the place looks like and what's available.
Right. The information depends. I mean, there are different stratas of information. I have a book called The Brain Audit, and in The Brain Audit, it shows you specifically why the process that people go through. So people are looking. So when we make a decision, any buying decision, we're actually going through a series of steps. And because we do those steps so quickly when we're looking at something, we don't realize that they are very, 7 whole steps that you have to take before you buy a TV, or you go and book a hotel or a room or whatever. You're actually going through a series of steps, and the Brain Audit outlines those steps. And once you understand those steps, then it's much easier to present your information in a way that's simple and sequential, mostly sequential.
Uh-huh. And what are those 7 steps?
The first step is really the problem. Now, when we present anything, like we're presenting, say, say your apartment or your house, what we tend to do is we talk about the solution. This is what every business owner does. When we say, what do you do? They come up with, how they solve your problem. But the brain actually works in a different way. It is alerted to the problem before the solution. So if you walk down the street, for instance, there are flowers, there are women, there are men, there are stores, but your eye goes onto the dog poo because you've stepped in it before, and you know that if you step in it, it's going to be squishy and icky. So your brain is looking out for all the traffic that's coming in, all the problems that are on the street. That is what the brain is looking for. And when it realizes, okay, I'm in a safe area, I'm on a pavement, there's nothing to be worried about, it then starts to look at a solution. So you say, well, how does this apply to a house? Well, when I'm looking for a property, for instance, that I want to stay in, I will have, you have a list of features that any property has. And one of the things that I would be looking for is noise. I really don't want any noise when I'm on vacation, because I'm not one of those people that travel. So I travel 3 months in a year, in spring and autumn, and then later in our summer. And the point is that I'm always looking for places that are very comfortable, but most importantly, I don't want any noise, because if I'm going on vacation, I just want to rest, I want to read, I don't want to do any sightseeing, so the fundamental thing is, if you highlight the problem of other apartments having a high noise factor, then that's going to get my attention. That problem gets my attention. And then you go to the second bag, or the second, I call them bags because we call them 7 red bags. And then you go to the solution. So essentially, you want to always start off with the problem that your apartment or your house is solving. You want to bring that problem up because the person sees it, and then you go to the solution. And most marketing and promotions go the opposite way, and that's why they're so ineffective.
That's really interesting because, to translate this on an Airbnb listing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but these are just my thoughts. Instead of highlighting or mentioning the highlights of your apartment, you would think about what problems do other apartments have that my apartment doesn't.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
But you still want to boil it down to a single one. So the tendency is to say, well, we do this and this, so we solve this problem and this problem and this problem. So supposing it's someone like me, I'm looking for noise, I'm looking for spacious place, I'm looking for something else. So I've got 2 or 3 things. And you're going, but wait a second. So Sean, you're looking for 3 things. So let me put 3 things in the headline. No. You always want to start with the biggest problem. You have to treat this like a movie. See, in the movie, there are many people that play their part, and there is one lead actor, and there are supporting actors. Mm-hmm. And the biggest problem that you solve, that needs to come up there. That's the lead actor. And then you need to drive home that problem. And in the brain audit, we explain how this works, how you then expand on the problem before bringing up the solution. And then you also bring up the other problems that it solves, and then you bring up the solution. So you're going through this step-by-step process, and the client is nodding as they're reading your listing on Airbnb.
So this could apply to the title. So you're basically saying it's best to focus on a certain demographic in your title, like cater to one specific crowd?
Correct. So the first 3 bags are really the problem, the solution, and the target profile. What is a target profile? A target profile is really one person. That means Jasper. So you're not actually appealing to Jasper and Mary and Katrina and all those people. You're only appealing to Jasper. And Jasper is focused on the noise factor. And you're looking for all the Jaspers of the world in the world. You're not looking for, Marys and Katrina. And that's the mistake that lots of people do. They instead appeal to one person, they try and appeal to everyone, because there are lots of people that are focused on noise. There are lots of people like me who are focused on noise, and to me, that would get my attention first. If I'm looking at 10 properties and one property talks, all the properties are going to talk about how great they are, but one property is talking about noise, that's going to get my attention.
Right. It's better to be loved by one and hated by nine than that everybody thinks it's like average.
Yes,
So,
because for instance, that's how we have run our business since the year 2000, and it's been very successful. That's why we're able to travel and do that stuff. And when people appeal to everyone, that's when they run into the trouble. When you look at something like Domino's Pizza, which was marketing for speed, it says 30 minutes or you're free, or it's free. Now, that was a long time ago when they did that. But even today, people talk about it. Why do they talk about it? Because you could get pizza that was, spicy. You could get different flavors of the Domino's Pizza. You could get different sizes. You could get everything. But no, they focused on one problem, and that is, if you don't get it in 30 minutes, it's free. So they were really highlighting one problem, which is speed. And the problem that you solve might be that you're far away from town. That, yes, that is a problem for most people, but for the people who love to be away from all the noise, that's great. Or the problem that you solve may be that you're on the 17th floor where the traffic noise doesn't reach. Or the problem that you solve is maybe your kitchen is non-existent, and that's because you have 17 great restaurants right below your apartment. Okay, you can even take a negative and make it a positive, provided you understand who is that person that you're appealing to.
So just as an example, if you look at my listing, my title is Perfect Couple's House, because I have a 2-bedroom apartment and the bedrooms are on opposite sides of the building, which basically means that you have a lot of privacy. So if I have 2 couples staying, and they won't have the problem that the rooms are right next to each other, so they can kind of like hear what they're doing. So I kind of like cater to that crowd. Is that a good idea?
That is, you've actually given a good example of a solution. So what you need to do is you have to actually state it out. It's like, when you have, so I don't know whether you can write a headline, but essentially your headline said, when 2 couples live next door to each other, like we traveled with another couple in Portugal, and, we were in the same space all the time, and then everyone has to adjust. So your headline needs to say, when you're 2 couples in the same house, there's too much adjustment. Here's how 2 couples can, so you have a headline and a subheadline. Here's how 2 couples can live in the same house without running into each other.
Right.
And there you've got a problem, which is identifying, okay, I'm traveling with this couple, and now I can travel, but not have to run into them into their space all the time.
Yeah, so the thing with Airbnb is that the title is fairly short.
Correct.
I think it's 40 characters. So it's always a bit of a challenge to to cramp either as much information or to make your title like very catchy to cater to a specific crowd, like you said.
Yes, I'm sure you can just, as far as titles go, maybe you're going to just have a few words, but on the page itself, I don't know. Possibly you have a headline or something like that.
Yeah, you can. You can write as much as you want on the description. What's important though is I think people start on the top. So what you'll see, if you look at an Airbnb listing, you see the pictures first.
I'm looking at it here.
Oh, okay, yeah. So then you see the title, and then you see like how many bedrooms, how many beds, etc. And then it starts with about this listing, and there you have about 1 paragraph that you can write.
Correct.
And I think most people will probably look at this part. I don't know if everyone's going to scroll down and read the full description, because I know people are also kind of lazy on the internet. They're a little bit impatient.
So in the about this listing, you want to drive home the problem.
Right.
because here I'm reading one. It says you won't find better than this in the heart of Auckland City for price allocation. Right. Well, what is really critical? What problem is this solving? So this is the problem it's solving. It's that it's only minutes from the central train, bus, and ferry terminals. That's what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about all the cafes and bars are just 5 minutes walk away. But what you're looking at is the problem that he's solving here is convenience, right? So that is the most critical. So you need, when you say city center, little loft apartment, yes, but if you can kind of then about this listing, if you can start to talk about how people get apartments that are far away from the city and they struggle a lot, and how this works. Essentially what happens is then all the testimonials you get, they fall in line with that. They say, oh, it was so convenient. Oh, it was so convenient. Oh, it was so convenient. So what you're starting to get is a consistent message for your place. Whereas when you look at the testimonials, then you start to get, it was a great spot. They had plenty of towels and linen, a bottle of wine, blah, blah, blah. But really what you want is the whole single problem that you're solving. And when you do that, and each one is different. So when you do this on Google AdWords, you have to take that problem and compress it. When you do it on Airbnb, you have to probably compress it even further. But understanding how it works and then putting that stuff in the listing, I think that makes a huge difference. I mean, it's proven by thousands of businesses to work, So
what you're saying is you want your whole listing to sort of be congruent with, by providing a solution for one single problem. And that goes for the title, goes for the description, and also for the reviews. And the reviews are obviously out of our control. But if you do cater to one specific crowd, then that crowd is probably going to mention, the problem that you're solving, right?
Correct. You definitely want, at the end of, this is how you know that you're actually sending out a solid message. When someone reads it and you say, okay, now summarize that in 1 or 2 words, and they say convenient, that's when you know, right? Otherwise, what you get is, I'm looking at different listings here, and they're all get free nights. There's no consistency in what they're saying. They're just listing everything that they possibly have.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work as effectively because yes, everyone's looking for a great place. Everyone's looking for convenience, but there is when you actually ask, and the way you can solve this problem is to ask your clients. So let's say 3 clients stay in your house and you had just an average listing, and then you say, like, what was the biggest problem that, because you have access to them through email, and if you've done a good job, they will respond. And you say, if you were to say, what was the biggest uniqueness of this place? Over time, you'll get this very clear. They'll say, what I liked really about it was the morning light. And now that's completely different from all the other places. So it's like perfect morning light, and all the people that like morning light, they're the ones that get attracted. See, the point is that you can list just like everybody else and just put in text, like city center apartment or waterfront apartment or whatever. The problem is that when I'm looking through it, nothing specifically gets my attention. So then I can only look at the photograph and go, oh, that looks nice, let's have a look. But the pictures and the words both need to do the job. So that's really how it works.
It makes a lot of sense to me, because I'm just thinking about how I selected an apartment, an Airbnb apartment in Paris. I really like to have a nice view. Gives me a kind of a sense of freedom. So this particular apartment, it said best view in Paris, and then the first picture was a view of the Eiffel Tower that was taken from the balcony. And even though I looked at more listings, when I saw that picture, I already kind of knew I was going to book that place.
Right. And so then you turn that around with the problem where you drive home the problem, because the brain is focused on the problem. I mean, you stand up in your room and you walk through the room, and you're actually not just walking, you're avoiding all the chairs, you're not slamming into the door. And that's because the brain is like this radar. It's going, there's a problem, let me go past it, let me go around it. So the problem that they were solving is that there are great apartments in Paris, but can you get a view of the Eiffel Tower from your window?
Mm-hmm.
And you go, no, really? And then you start reading more.
Yeah, and it's like in those big cities, there's so many apartments. I think Paris has, I can't remember the exact number, but I thought it was something like 40,000. So if you think about it that way, there's 40,000 apartments. How are you going to stand out from the crowd, right?
Right. And that's the whole point, because the more, I don't know, but I think that the more you are rated, the higher you are rated, the better prices you're going to be able to charge.
Mm-hmm.
But at least your ranking overall is going to be better. Your testimonials are going to be better. So,
all right. So I think that's a really important lesson. Is there anything else in terms of how you write the description? I always tell people to use descriptive words and describe the experience, not so much list the facts. Is that something that you can comment on?
The thing is that you're really looking for the other things, which is the objections that people have. You have a risk reversal and you have testimonials. The point is that objections and testimonials are opposite to each other. So when you look at, say, the things that people aren't sure about, but is it close to the city? But can I do this? Can I do that? You want to start listing those kind of objections that most people have when they're getting a place, and then getting testimonials that clean up those objections. Because when I'm looking at a place, I'm thinking, and I have this objection that you haven't brought up. So every product, or you go to buy a computer, you go, but so yesterday I bought a standing desk, and I was like, but do I have to have these screws to put it on? And then it answered that objection. You don't have to put any screws. You just place it on your desk, and in 3 seconds it comes up. So each apartment or every product is going to have its objections. And when you don't bring up those objections, then you have missed that opportunity to get in the customer's mind and solve that problem. The second way to solve that objection is to actually get the client. I don't know if you can get the client, but you send them a bunch of questions if you're that dedicated, and they can answer those questions. And so then you get kind of, I'm probably out of touch here with exactly how Airbnb works, but you could probably ask them to answer a whole bunch of questions or a few questions, and that would take care of that objection. So for instance, say the objection was price, then you would go, was your biggest objection price? And they'll say, no, it was really well priced. And so they start off with price. And so then when it goes down and people are reading the testimonials, they read price, or convenience. And so you're getting this continuous singular message rather than these random testimonials that go all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this advice, Sean. I think this is really helpful and interesting to get your perspective. Can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you if they want to find out more about this particular subject?
I would suggest that you go to psychotactics.com and you can, look at the brain audit. Now you can get the brain audit on Amazon as well, but you can get it at PsychoTactics as well. So that's the brain audit that shows you how customers think, and then you can take bits of that information and then apply it to your site, to your business, and to your listings.
Awesome, great advice. So everybody, go ahead and check out Sean's site at Sorry, can you say it one more time, the website?
It's psychotactics.com.
PsychoTactics.com. Okay, I'll also put it in the show notes for everybody. So thanks for being on the show, Sean. And everybody, thanks for listening. And we'll be a new episode next Monday. So we'll see you then.
Get paid for your pet. 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 Get paid for your pet.